Most people think RDS is just EC2 with a database pre-installed. It's not. RDS removes an entire category of work from your plate, and understanding what that work actually is will change how you think about every database decision you make in the cloud. When you run a database on EC2, you're renting a virtual server from AWS and doing everything yourself, installing PostgreSQL or MySQL, configuring it, patching it, backing it up, and keeping it running. AWS RDS, which stands for Relational Database Service, is AWS handling all of that operational work for you. You just connect and query. Think of it like renting a car versus hiring a driver. On EC2, you've got the car, you're responsible for fuel, maintenance, and navigation. With RDS, someone else handles all of that. You just tell them where you want to go. This choice shows up earlier than most people expect. You're building a side project, a startup MVP, or a new service at work. You spin up a PostgreSQL database on EC2 because it feels more familiar or more flexible. 6 months later, you've missed a security patch, your backups haven't been tested, and when something breaks at 2 a.m., you realize you're the on-call DBA now, even though that was never part of the plan. That's the moment most developers discover what self-managed actually means in practice. It doesn't just mean setup, it means ongoing ownership of availability, security, and recovery. RDS exists specifically because that ongoing ownership is expensive and easy to underestimate. With a self-managed database on EC2, you control the full stack. You pick the operating system, install the database engine, configure memory and connection limits, set up automated backups yourself, apply OS-level security patches, and handle what happens when the disk fills up or the instance crashes. Full control, full responsibility. RDS shifts most of that to AWS. When you create an RDS instance, you choose your database engine, PostgreSQL, MySQL, MariaDB, Oracle, or SQL Server, and your instance size, and AWS builds everything underneath it. The OS is managed for you. Patches get applied on a maintenance window you control. Automated backups are on by default with point-in-time recovery, meaning you can restore your database to the exact state it was in at any minute within your backup window. That's a genuinely hard thing to build and maintain yourself. RDS also handles multi-AZ deployments. AZ stands for Availability Zone, essentially a separate physical data center within the same AWS region. With multi-AZ enabled, AWS keeps a synchronized standby copy of your database in a second location. If your primary instance fails, RDS fails over automatically, usually within 1 to 2 minutes, without you doing anything. And if you like understanding how this stuff actually works under the hood, Stack Future breaks down something new every day. What RDS doesn't give you is deep OS access. You can't SSH into the underlying server, install custom extensions outside what RDS supports, or tune certain low-level parameters. For the vast majority of applications, that's a trade you'll happily make. For a small number of specialized workloads, it's a real constraint worth knowing about before you commit. Say you're building a web app and you've chosen PostgreSQL as your database. On the AWS free tier, you can actually spin up an RDS instance, a db.t3.micro running PostgreSQL at no cost for the first 12 months, which makes this a real option to try, not just a theoretical one. You create the instance, grab the endpoint, which is just a URL that points to your database, drop it into your app's configuration, and you're connected. From your application's perspective, it's just a PostgreSQL database. Nothing changes about how you write queries. But behind that endpoint, AWS is taking automated backups every day, storing them for 7 days by default, monitoring the underlying hardware, and ready to swap to a standby instance if anything fails. You didn't configure any of that. It was on by default. Compare that to running PostgreSQL on EC2, where your first week would include installing the engine, writing backup scripts, testing those backup scripts, and configuring CloudWatch alerts just to know if the thing goes down. RDS isn't just convenience, it's a transfer of operational responsibility. The database behaves the same. What changes is who's accountable for keeping it alive, patched, and recoverable. For most projects, that trade is obviously worth it. Once you understand what you're actually handing off, the decision gets a lot easier. If you want to go deeper, multi-AZ and RED replicas are the natural next step. They're how RDS scales and survives failure, and they're worth a proper look. If this clicked for you, a like helps the channel a lot.